Hello, and welcome back to Dev Game Club, a weekly podcast in which two veteran game developers look at games from the past to discuss their relevance and impact today. I'm Brett Duville, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, a man who has rescued all the humans by behaving just like one of them.
Tim Longo. The irony of that is that daily my wife calls me a robot, so it's very appropriate.
Ironic or appropriate?
Okay. Fair enough. So ready to jump in?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so we have a special guest today, folks. Surprise! We have, so I'll do the intro really quickly and then we'll jump in. So one of our awesome bonus episodes for continuing on Portal-related topics, specifically Portal 2 co-op, but I think we're going to talk about a lot of different things. Today we have Chet Faliszek on the podcast, partner to Eric Wolpaw, who we had on previously. Chet started Old Man Murray with Eric. We believe, I understand, around 1997, though he can correct us if I got that wrong. And it looks like it ran, some of this will be redundant to Eric's, obviously, intro. That ran until 2002. Around 2005, it looks like. Chet was hired by Valve to contribute to many of their top franchises, as we all know: Half-Life, Portal, Left 4 Dead, Counter-Strike, and more. So hopefully we can hear about some of that stuff. We don't have to just talk about Portal. Around 2017, he left Valve to join Bossa Studios from the Seattle side of things. I believe they had a studio out here. And then Chet was also on the board of advisors for Vertigo Games, helping with their VR titles, or at least one VR title. And then in 2019, he founded a new studio called Stray Bombay with Kimberly Vol, or Vol, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, where they created a new cooperative shooter called the Anacrusis, which fully launched in 2023. We welcome Chet to the podcast, and yeah, we can't wait to hear about all of this stuff. Welcome, Chet.
Hello.
Sounds like you heard Eric's interview, which we had a fun time with, and I don't know if you probably don't consider yourselves partners in crime anymore, but I think at the time you probably were. But one of the ways, as you heard, that we like to start is really at the beginning, I guess, and it probably goes back before Old Man Murray for you, as it does with a lot of us. So what happened? How did it? How did you get here?
You're old enough that, like, when we talk about this stuff, people are like, "Oh, I'm old school video games." I'm like, I was into video games before video games existed. Like, I existed before there were video games in the arcade.
Okay, good. Well, exactly. So that's that. You are older than me.
Yeah. All right.
No. We're all around the same age, so I agree. I remember when the arcades first got them. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, but I had a cousin who got a Heath kit, and made one, right? Because they were all like electric engineers and like super smart people. And I think my dad got jealous of that. I remember first video game I ever played was a football game. They had made like a text adventure football game, as one does, right?
Yes, a text adventure football game.
Yeah, it's
like a clash.
Fit.
We should say, by the way, we're on video recording this, so Chet and Brett and I can see each other, which is an additional fun thing. So,
but Stratomatic football. Do you remember Stratomatic football and Stratomatic baseball? They were
I'm familiar.
Stat-based games. Yeah. So it was like a version of that. My dad was like, "Oh, we could get one of those," and there was, of course, nothing to get back then. And we eventually got a TSR 80 color computer. That didn't work out. And then, like, I did the Timex Sinclair, VIC-20, C64, Amiga. I was like that vein of person.
Yeah. All of them. So you hit a bunch of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I remember being very jealous of a friend who had a C64 because of the games that were on that.
Yeah.
And I forget what I had. It was like another weird one. It might've been a pet, but that was just jealous, right? Of like what C64 had.
Yeah, C64 was the first time that I made something myself and put it on the screen. I'm like, oh my God, like I made my mom come down and look at it. Like that's I did that, right? Like I made stuff for friends and things. But yeah, like I just goofed around on that though. And then, it was around that, like, somewhere along there, I met Eric around that time. Like we've known each other from way back then.
Was it way back? Okay, I forgot what he said about that. So
yeah, back when your Commodore 64 broke, what you did was you bought a new one from Toys R Us and put the old one in the box and then returned that
one. Well, back those days when that's what you did, I never thought of that.
Back those days when you committed fraud. Yeah,
exactly.
I wish I'd thought of that. So yeah, that's right. You and Eric go way back. So then, how did we get to Old Man Mary again from your perspective? I know you listened to Eric's interview, but yeah.
So like we moved in together like when we were 18. We didn't know rent was like a monthly thing. We were confused. And just then, like, it was one of those, like, you keep running it, like you keep hanging out with each other and then someone falls off and goes away. I went to college for a while and he would come down and visit me when I was down there. Like in college, we had an Amiga. I've never been the Nintendo person stuff. Like my Amiga was what we hung out and played and did things. But it was kind of coming out of college, toured with a band for a summer, did not have anything happen. Of painted houses. I did like my first stint of depression where I just did nothing for like 6 months and then
your
painted
first
houses.
Stint.
And then, like, you know what I mean? Like I don't know if I just couldn't do anything, like just nothing. And so decided, the woman that I had known for a very long time, not a long time, 5 years at this point, that we should try to be serious. And the only way to do that is to move to New Orleans. So we moved to New Orleans, to get away from everybody else. Cause everyone knew each other, right? Like it's that big group of extended friends. And then when I came back, Eric had a great job and he's like, oh, I could get you hired. $6 an hour, data processing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was bad. But I learned a bunch and we kind of connected there. Yeah, Eric can talk. We made a text adventure game back then. We were going to make a text adventure MMO.
Oh, he didn't mention that. No, like a mud kind of thing.
Yeah. We didn't know about some of those things, but we knew about like jokes and data, so we combine those two things, right?
we knew about jokes and data. Yeah,
because it was literally right. It's just a database full of stuff, and you can put containers inside of containers, and then all the stuff. Someone broke into the office and stole all the stuff.
Oh, wow!
Yeah. And that just kind of knocked the wind out of it. So also it dealt with zombies. And it dealt with that you're going to go to hell and do stuff. And it was actually, you're going to go to, the original mission was going to be like, you were going to be Brandon Lee going back to fight your dad to show you were cooler. And then Brandon Lee died. So like, there's a bunch of cursed stuff around.
Whoa. Wow. Yeah. That is layered and meta.
But the one thing out of that though, is that later the Project Zomboid guys had the same thing happen to them where all their stuff got stolen. I called them up on the phone and I'm like, hey guys, let's talk about this. Cause I can relate to this. Like, don't do what we did. Don't give up.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's right. I remember that news coming out. So that's your and Eric's lost game.
Yeah. There. Yeah. We had other ideas like when we lived together and he had worked on some more stuff more seriously at some point. But like, yeah, that was our attempt.
Did you have a name for it?
Yeah, this is Zombie World.
Zombie World.
I stole the domain zombieworld.com. This is before the internet. That's the other thing, man. We didn't have internet when I went to college.
Still own the domain, just in case you find the computer that they stole. So you
never know.
You never know.
Retirement project maybe someday.
Yeah. But we had so then I went to work at a nonprofit. I left there and went to work at a nonprofit, and I did some stuff with there's this guy Larry Makinson. There's a website now called what is it called? Open Secrets, which is about campaign finance reform. And actually I did a whole bunch of stuff and actually wrote the software that they were using for a while.
Amazing.
To match up, to try to hunt down. And now nobody cares because you just give money openly and it doesn't really make a difference.
Yeah.
Sigh.
Yeah.
But coming out of there is the internet started coming up. And I was just really excited about that idea of like, I thought of like when I lived in New Orleans as a bartender. And if you live in bartending in New Orleans in the quarter means every week there's a new group of people because it's like conventions come in, right? So we would have magic tricks down. We had jokes. Like we had like little acts we put on, right? And it was great because people would come and you could just repeat the same ones. And eventually you get really good at it because you could practice. And I'm like, the internet is just like a million people can come by, would do one good joke. And that's all we have to do. Like no one knew, right? But I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand that it was just like text files. Like there's a whole mystery that used to exist, right?
Yeah.
Figured that out. At the same time, found, remember Computer Shopper magazine?
Oh yeah.
Big giant book.
Yeah, I remember the logo. Yeah.
So in the back of that, they had a thing to sell the game Myth. Remember the game Myth, the Bungie game?
Yeah. The Forgotten Lords.
Yeah, and so we really liked that game. And they had it for like $30. You could get it wholesale. I'm like, oh, I could sell that for $45 on the internet. This will work. So we're going to get games from them. And what it is gray market games where they're supposed to be going out of the country. And since they're not going out of the country, but coming back in, they don't pay tax on them. So they're lower priced. Somebody's committing fraud along the way. We're not. But
no, I mean, your fraud was behind you. So
yeah, you set it up.
We're at a first sale doctrine. I looked this whole thing up. We were in the clear. But so I was just like, oh, I'll just write some descriptions for these and put them up on the website, right? Pretty simple. And I get to Ultima Online. And I'm like, I can't write something nice about this game. Like this game's horrific. So I ended up just writing just nothing but negative reviews and then said, but buy these games. And I actually posted on Usenet, hey, come buy games from us. We're selling games. Which was funny back then because people are like, you can't do that. You're not allowed to say negative things about things you're selling. But Eric saw it and was like, oh my God, this is hilarious. And then he wrote his whole bunch. They were funnier than mine. And then that was it. That was the kickoff. We did what we called short reviews. And we still had those going for a really long time. And it was just, the games came in and then we eventually did the more newsy thing. And those were the bigger jokes and stuff. But yeah, that was the very start of it, was just selling. And we used to sell games. It became a problem. Like we would have to go every single day to the post office and drop off like 30 games. And it was just not
good problem to have problem.
Well, it was a low margin thing compared to like Yu-Gi-Oh just giving us money.
Yeah.
Right. And Yu-Gi-Oh just gave us money. And that was our like, hey, we can do this thing. And then of course they stopped giving us money. And then the internet collapsed. And but back then nobody knew, right? We're friends with like the Penny Arcade guys. We're friends with Pointless Waste of Time. I think Pointless Waste of Time may be the biggest success story because Jason is a published author now. He's had a bunch of books come out. But also like just, like that whole scene back then and nobody knew, like, does this just go away? Does this just keep going? We don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, almost like it's not even, I wouldn't even say modern now, but because it's been around for a while, but I think of the YouTube version of this these days and Honest Trailers comes to mind, which like the kids watch and I watch because I'm old and now I'm 10 years behind or whatever. But it's like that kind of style and tone, but and I guess they're not selling anything particular. They're selling their videos, but so that's amazing that's how that whole memory started, reviewing games you were selling, but with the tongue in cheek.
Yeah. But the weird thing with that though, then is that when we started it, we were just two idiots from Cleveland making each other laugh. Right.
Yeah.
And I still remember we stayed up to watch the web's counter hit 50. Right. And then it's like hitting 5,000, then it's hitting 50,000. And it's like seeing this happen. But the problem then is we were really uncomfortable saying some of the stuff we wanted to say because we felt like we were punching down. And so that's why at the end, it's a lot more positive, and it's like the Serious Sam, and there's actually some Christian game we promoted, like because we're just like, this is just weird. But at that point, we had already had a relationship with Valve, and Eric mentioned they made a version of Team Fortress Classic for us, which had our gags in the game.
Who did?
Valve did.
Oh.
And we had to play it against them, but to install it, you had to say something real. You had to agree to something really horrible about me that I won't say on the air. It was like the agreement to say. Then you click, and then you could install it. But yeah, we would play, like we were going back and forth with them quite a bit, but never thinking we were going to work. And then we had stopped updating the page. And then like Eric said, Gabe just all sent emails and said, hey, you want to come out here? We're like, can you give us any more information? He's like, no, just come on out. Right?
Just come. We're Valve. Just come on out. Yeah.
Well, then, because then we just, our interview was 3 days of hanging out at Valve.
Yeah.
Well, mine was 3 days. Eric was 2 days because he had to go back. And he's just like, you can negotiate this contract, like just negotiate our salaries. If they're offering us a job, like I trust you to do it. And I just said yes to the first number. So
there was no negotiation. Yeah. Wow. Well, yeah, I'm sure it was a good number. Wow. Yeah. I mean, to your point on the era, we were all trying to navigate the internet and figure out how it works. And it was a small enough pool, even though it's the World Wide Web, where, those connections are lasting and then it leads to a job. Yeah. So that's incredible. So, I mean, Eric gave us some of his perspective, but what were the early days of you two joining? I mean, you're transitioning into a very different job, I assume, right? You're still needing to be funny and you're still needing to write, but different situations. So what was that transition like for you?
Well, so Eric, remember he got sick and actually left for like 6 months, right?
Yeah,
and so there was a period it was just me where I was really sure I was just going to be fired. And he called me up on Christmas Eve and he's like, "Man, I'm dying. I got to quit." And I'm like, "Oh." I went into the office with him and it was like this whole thing. It was rough. But so I was just like, I don't know what to do. And the first thing I did there was I fixed a Day of Defeat source website. I did the HTML for it because I said something negative about it and it needed to get done, right?
And they're like, "You fix it."
Yep.
Yeah,
the guy
you
pet the dog,
like,
you own the dog, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, all right, I don't care. That doesn't bother me. And then episode 1 was going and I was helping out with that, but I was not a big help. Like I was just learning the tools and trying to understand and learning how to make VCDs and hook up audio and like how the response roll system worked. And like, it was rough.
Yeah.
But I also just I went out ahead of my wife moving out to Seattle. So I just had a lot of time. Mm-hmm. So like they were going to ship, I should have looked this up if it was on the original Xbox, Half-Life 2. Like, I don't know, they were tripping something and I just stayed up and stayed with everybody crunching to get that out, right? I'm like, sure, whatever, I'm here.
Orange Box, basically, right?
No, way before that.
Oh, this was Half-Life 2, you're saying?
Yeah.
They were basing on the
like this is before shipping. Episode 1 came out.
Right.
And so then we're working on episode 1. Like I said, and we ship episode 1, that goes fine. We had a party to ship episode 1, like an after party. And I just remember they gave out these little plaques, like for everybody who worked on one. And everyone was supposed to go get up and say something, but nobody knew what to say. Like the first 2 people, and I was the third person. So I just thanked myself for being awesome. I'm like, I like to thank myself for being so awesome. And then I just walked away thinking it was, done. Anybody else who went up who didn't know what to say thanked me for being awesome. So it's this whole thing. By the end, Scott Lynch, who like is the CEO there, who like really runs Valve, was just like, "Hey, I don't know who Chet is, but I guess he's pretty awesome." It was a pretty good gag. And then later, the HR person, when we were making the website for the actual Valve and putting people's names in, she wrote mine as self-proclaimed Mr. Awesome as an example of what not to do for a bio. So that was my bio for like 10 years.
Amazing. A gag on the stage on a ship party. That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's
you still have that plaque?
Yeah, actually. I have the Day of Defeat one.
He's reaching back for the audio
narrator.
Let's get the Day of Defeat
I didn't
one.
actually earn this one because I just did the website. I didn't actually.
Nice. Okay.
But we'd all play stuff. It was, when I joined, it was like 75 people.
Mm-hmm.
And like Eric was saying, like a bunch of people were already on break for having just shipped Half-Life 2. We joined right after that. So it was like really, I learned everybody's name. I knew everybody. Like I was going to, I hate soccer, but they were playing indoor soccer. So I'm like, yeah, I'll play indoor soccer or whatever. Like just kind of really embracing all of that. And
that's cool.
Then getting to that point. And then some point after that, so Eric was working on the SFM stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was working on it with him, and the guy he talked about a lot,
the crab cracker,
walks into a meeting and says, "Hey, I was watching TV last night, and I got this great idea." Oh. And I just stood up and I walked out the door. I'm like, I'm like, no, this is taking too long already. This is too much back and forth. I know I can go work on episode 2. Like, I'm out of here. And Eric just got stuck. But I mean, Eric wrote all the metas and everything. Like they're super funny, right? Like, it's good. It was just a painful process.
So you abandoned Eric, is what you're saying?
Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah, I totally. No, he just looked at me like, "You're not allowed to do that." I'm like, you are.
One of our community members made a shirt based on the crab cracker story that you can now get on the merch store from our community. So shout out to Mark on that.
That guy will come up, I think, again once on something. But
great.
So from that, then me and Eric played Left 4 Dead, a really, 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 really early broken version of it, and we had lunch with Gabe, and I'm like, "This game's amazing. I want to go work on this." And he's like, "Go work on it."
It's just such a good game.
Right. And so back then they were down in Orange County, and Turtle Rock was just like 6 people or something. And it was just like really early on. And so me and Eric are like, "Okay, we're going to write an email to them to say, 'Hey, Mike, we're going to come join you.'" We had never talked to Mike really at that point. And our first email to him was, "Hey, we're not very good at games, but we're very efficient. So we're going to cut 10% of your staff."
Oh my God.
What possessed us to say that as the first thing to say to him?
Oh, wow.
But Mike kind of got the joke, I think. And then we went down, and Eric's like, "This doesn't jive with me, the vibe." It was a small, very intense. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to stick it out. I'll get this to work." Right. You know how you have that feeling sometimes of like, this isn't what I want, but I can get this to be what I want. I just need to put in the time. And that was one of those times of like, this will work. This will work.
Yeah. So you stuck with it. So
then I just started working more and more on that, and then working on Team Fortress 2 and episode 2. And I did a little writing for Portal, and they cut the entire part I worked on. No batteries in Portal. But I'll tell you what, the time I remember Eric came back with the very opening of Portal, which is the opening that shipped, that very opening speech, which is hilarious. It's great. And I had just gotten burned by trying to be funny with TF2. We had not turned the corner with TF2 yet. And one of the artists is like, "Yeah, don't make it funny. Don't make it funny." And like, just got this thing and of like looking at Eric of like, "Man, I don't know. This is hilarious, but I don't know. Like, and he's like, "Yeah, this is it. This is what we're doing." I'm like, "All right."
So you mean with so you were worried because of the feedback you were getting from Team Fortress that him being funny on Portal was not going to land?
Yeah, and then quickly it became, "No, we're just going to be funny everywhere, and that artist is wrong." Right. It's that weird thing of when you work in a flat place, you look. I learned by kind of thinking I'm an idiot and everyone else is smarter than me. So when someone says something, I'm like,
You assume, right. No, I get it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, right. And at TF2 at that point was struggling. Gabe did not like our first pitch. We had gone back and kind of cleaned it up because the team there asked me to help like pitch ideas for those characters and how they were going to live in the world and stuff.
Interesting. Yeah. It's interesting that you said Team Fortress hadn't turned a corner yet. Because we look back, I mean, it's such a cornerstone now, right? Overwatch, there's so many games that it now has, you can see the direct, because it's part of the point of our podcast, right? Is like, what's the lineage? Where do things come from? And Team Fortress is one of those cornerstones. We don't do a lot of multiplayer games on the podcast, which I regret, but Brett won't do, but I understand. But that would be one.
Well, remember, in 1999, it won multiplayer game of E3.
Yeah. I was going to say,
a military
by the time you joined Valve, I had already been waiting for, TF2 for several years. Like, I can remember having this discussion on at least 2 games that I worked on at LucasArts. Like, when's it coming? And it was, like you said, it was military. It was like the Half-Life Marines, right? Basically was the feel. Yeah, it was a very big change.
And then there's like a space weird one that they had for a while that people really liked but never came together.
Oh, I don't.
And then they were
remember
coming
that.
back to try to pitch it again. And that was one of the things with Gabe when the pitch was just going bad. Gabe just was like not having it. I did point out that if we went back to E3, we could be the only game ever to win E3 Multiplayer Game of the Year award in 2 separate millennia. And he put his head down. I think
that was
crying.
A clincher. They're like, "Who's this Chet guy again?"
But then the artists came through, right? The artists kept iterating and just really pulling that together, and then we bounced off the artists what they were doing, and
that was my next question. Sort of like, what the catalyst was.
Yeah, it was the artists really just. They had come up with so many versions, and then there's just this version that the minute you saw it, you're like, yes, right, this resonates, and that became
the style. The characters were the characters were really the identity. I feel like of that revelation, I guess.
Okay, but you say, it's the characters. Who are the characters? Because you have this moment early on, always where you're like, well, we got to justify this, right? So they're brothers from 2 separate families, or they're like, right? You go through all these weird iterations of it, and then we're like, no.
I don't mean that. Yeah.
They're just all these people from these different countries, and they're not even good versions of those countries. They're what people from 1960s would think people from those countries are like.
Right. Yeah. No, they're stereotypes, archetypes, whatever you want to say. But yeah, but I guess, my point about its influence, and maybe it was driven by art originally, but the identity of each of those characters, like even, and maybe this is just because I'm old as well, but the concept of silhouettes, in a multiplayer game,
yes,
for a shooter especially, was not a thing, right? The concept that each character had such a pure identity, and writing adds to that tenfold. Visuals obviously drive that too. Voice, VO, right? All of it comes together, and it was hard. I mean, I know we'll probably talk about Counter-Strike in a bit too, where that's not the case for silhouettes, but which is so funny that you've worked on such a variety of different ones. But anyway, again, that's why I bring up Overwatch. It's like Overwatch is a clear example today, but people don't remember where it came from, right? Where those ideas really come from. And I give Team Fortress the credit for that personally.
So was it around the time of like TF2 and especially Left 4 Dead, I think is what I remember, that you were using Elon Ruskin's sort of dialogue system, or is that a little later?
So that's later.
Okay, is that Left 4 Dead 2?
TF2 is like really bare bones, just there's a trigger. It's in
Say this line.
With episode 2, right? There's VCDs I would have to make for episode 2, and I would have to hand hook them up. There was no code or anything behind that.
Okay, yeah. I'm referring to, so for the listeners, to Elon Ruskin's, one of my favorite ever GDC talks was about the database-driven dialogue system that was, I guess, created later, maybe for Left 4 Dead too. So I'm maybe a little ahead of the game.
We had it for Left 4 Dead, and then he really took it to the next level for Left 4 Dead 2.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I did want to go back to Left 4 Dead though, when we get a second on that. But
no, we absolutely can. We can maybe talk about how that works, because I mean, that was one of those things where I was like, this is perfect for this sort of environment. It was like one of those like perfect solution to this kind of problem. And I've stolen parts of it myself. So but I was curious what it was like to write in that. But let's talk about the games a little bit first, and then we can talk about writing for them.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked the sort of core identity of Team Fortress we were just talking about, but to go back to Left 4 Dead, the thing I remember, just even as a player, but also as a developer, I think I was at Crystal at the time, is the systems you're talking about, Brett. And I couldn't remember if they were in 1 and also 2, and it was evolved in 2 or whatever. But it sounds like, Chet, some of that stuff was starting in 1. But the revelation there that I think was also a touchstone for the industry, and then a shooting off point for that, was because I eventually go on to work on Halo, where there were similar concepts being talked about for multiplayer, is how do you integrate, to be cheesy about it, how do you integrate narrative into a multiplayer shooter? And Left 4 Dead was always the game that's brought up as, oh, these are characters you're playing. They talk to each other. There's interactions. There's not necessarily like a story, but there is narrative, and there's relationships. But I'm shooting zombies, and it was just sort of another, not to overstate it, but a revelation, I would say. So, can you talk a little bit about that process being on the narrative side?
Sure. One of the things with Left 4 Dead that, again, it's kind of like the birth of Team Fortress 2 is, I remember, so at one point I'm working on Left 4 Dead, and Gabe is now starting to spend a lot of time. It becomes apparent that like I'm the Left 4 Dead guy. And so Gabe's hanging out with me a lot, and we're going to like coffee every day and talking about it and things and lunch and dinners. And like, it's great though. No. So I learned by talking and listening to people, and like, even if I'm disagreeing with them, like that little bit of like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'll take this. I'll kind of put this in my notes. But he was really insistent that there had to be a story. That
interesting.
Like, hey, if you look at like Night of the Living Dead, that's about racism. If you look at Dawn of the Dead, that's about consumerism, right? So what's your story? And
interesting. That's cool.
And my thing is like, there is no story, which is why we have the writing system we have,
right?
Because instead it's taken from the perspective of you being in this. You don't know who started this. This isn't like, it's not World War Z with Brad Pitt saying, this is my zombie apocalypse. No, you have no idea. You're just some fool in the city getting overrun, right?
Yeah, you hate fans.
And so that was the really important thing to me, is to bring that through. And, I think Gabe really challenged me a lot on that, let's just say. He had an alternate story that he offered up, which I won't repeat. That I was like, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to do this, right? And we're going to sit through this. And to be fair to him, he would do the same thing of like, I would get in this argument with him, and then he would go do press for somewhere, and I would hear my words being said. Like, he listened as well, but he would challenge me, and it was just really good. It was like, I learned more during that period of working that way with him than any other time. But it was also intense, right? Like, it's super intense.
But it was a healthy process, you'd say, of learning and going through that.
Yeah. I don't mind getting you like, he wouldn't yell, like, but you can yell at me and it does not bother me. So you can be intense with me and it just doesn't bother me. My family was a yelling family. It just bounces off me, right?
Right.
And so like having that kind of intense thing would sometimes be exhausting. I'd be like, because just to rewind a little bit is, so I'm working on all of these together, but then we ship the orange box. But when we're going to ship the orange box, we realize we don't have a Q&A department. And so we played all of Half-Life through on the orange box. I'm like, this is a disaster. This is really problematic. So I started collecting people's Xbox 360 dev kits who weren't using them, and put them in the hallway so that we could have access to have more people have access to them, which ended up, you might consider pissing off some people or drawn on me. But I was just like, no, we're just going to have people test this, and we'll test this and get this going. And so then this animator's like, hey, there's these things called certification. We have to go through this.
These things called certification.
So he's just like, I can organize that part of it if you organize the people part of it, kind of thing. That's kind of how we split it up.
Amazing.
A bunch of stuff we were already working like extra days, extra nights. And then it just turned into 24/7 testing of Xbox 360 for the orange box. Because we are not ready for it. We're testing 3 different games too, right? We're testing episode 2. We're testing, Eric kept calling it episode 1. It's episode 2, damn it. Episode 2, Team Fortress, and Portal.
Yeah.
As well as all of the Half-Life stuff now updated.
That is a good example of I don't know, fast and loose maybe isn't the right way to put it, but the fact that it dawned on you that there wasn't a QA department, and that you're gathering boxes and put them in the hallway for everyone to test, like, that is bonkers, because it's such an important product,
Well, but so like the cool thing at Valve though is instantly when I start doing this, people look and go, oh yeah, Yeah.
Of course, right.
Yeah, right. And then it's like our CFO is out there at 11 at night testing as well, because this
Which is cool. Yeah, that's cool. Exactly. Yeah. That can happen. You don't need to go through a process. You don't need to go get approvals from some bureaucracy. You just do what needs to be done, which I think infamously we all love. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is why, like, sometimes, like, Valve is the perfect place for me, because I could just say, I'm going to own this, and people are like, okay. So then after that, everyone else went to go work on design experiments, and I'm like, I'm going to go do Left 4 Dead. I'm going to go move out of my office, the writer's office, and go move upstairs to the 11th floor where support just moved out of. And I'm going to take an engineer with me, and we're going to start. And then the artist came right away with me as well, like, oh, I want to work on this as well, right? Like, and he was really talented and did the whole, like, if you ever saw Dawn of the Dead, the Philadelphia kind of wallpaper and 70s wallpaper and very vibey of that. That's why Left 4 Dead has that vibe, right? And he brought that all the way through. And so it was from that I think I had built up enough, hey, okay, we'll let you run on this and start building this team, because you just did this other thing that worked out pretty well. Mm-hmm. And so that's when Gabe really started spending a lot of time and being like, hey, let's go lunch. Let's go talk this through. And then also just challenging me of like, hey, this is, why don't you have a story? What's going on here?
Right.
Or he would always ask, why aren't I just playing Counter-Strike? Which is just a horrible question to ask, right?
But that's a challenging question. That's definitely ups the ante.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And he taught me, like, you're not allowed to just be negative to something. You have to have if you're rank and file, you can be just negative to something. But if you want to lead the project, you can't just be negative to something. You have to have the replacement, because we were doing this very special treatment of, like, the box and the art and everything. And I'm like, no, it's not a Valve game. It's not a symphony. This is rock and roll. This is like just like a college rock band. It's messy. And eventually, like, I had to go in a meeting where I said, hey, we're going to ship bugs. Because I am going to DNF a whole bunch of bugs, and we're going to ship these, and it's going to be okay. But I want to have a realistic ship date. And the only way we get to the realistic ship date is for me just to say, we're never going to fix these bugs.
Interesting. So are you alluding to sort of thinking about it from more of a live game mentality, knowing that you were going to fix those bugs later? Or was it just more of the rock and roll, more of the rock and roll feel?
We're never going to fix some of those. That game engine wasn't the main source line. That was this bastardized version that had been made for Counter-Strike Source, and then modified by Turtle Rock. And so, like, when Left 4 Dead went to go to cert, we were up, and I just got, side note, I just got back from Russia. I'm like, no sleep deprived. And one of the senior engineers is like, hey, we're going to fix this thing that it reloads the level 3 times. I'm like, don't touch that. Everyone's tried that. Don't touch that. Just leave it. He's like, nope. This is like at 2 a.m., right? The night before.
The best time to fix a bug. Yeah, absolutely.
He fixes it. It's obvious what to fix. He fixes it. And then just randomly characters disappear.
Yep.
We roll it back. We finally get it out. And we get it there like at 9 a.m. or whatever, right? But like the crunch was really intense on that. And it had a bunch of bugs that we inherited from that. It'd been built as quickly as you could build something. Mike and his team were really quick iterative. Like you gave them feedback, the next day you saw it, right? Which is a great way to work, except you get a lot of tech debt. And we just had so much tech debt that we were going to have to say, hey, we're going to be buggy in some of these instances. As long as it doesn't stop you from playing the game, it's okay.
Yeah. Well, it's so on on the story stuff, and I want to, hopefully, if you can remember, I want to understand the writing for that game somewhat. In that, and thank you for sharing the you and Gabe story, because that's super fascinating, and I think it is going to be a treat for the listeners to hear. It's not. I'm so happy personally that you held your ground on the story thing, and the reason for that is like I talk about silhouetting in multiplayer shooters for Team Fortress as a thing that I feel like has permeated the industry and the medium. For Left 4 Dead, and I use this in my day-to-day job often too, Left 4 Dead is about telling the player's story, to be cheesy about it, right? It's like, but the game supports that. So yeah, every game tells the player's story because the player is playing the game, of course. But in that game, the VO is reacting more dynamically to what the player is doing, so it supports the player's story. And so there is a story. To Gabe's point, there is a story in Left 4 Dead, but it's the player's story. It's that group's story. And I think that was another fork in the road for us, for anyone making multiplayer games. So can you talk a little bit about, it was one of the first games that had characters quipping to each other while you're playing. It's not just, danger close or whatever nonsense. It's like, no, actually, I'm scared. Here comes a zombie. This reactive kind of VO. So how did you write for that?
So you're right. Though it is a social interaction. My favorite review of Left 4 Dead is playing Left 4 Dead with your friends. Is this great social interaction experience together. Playing it with strangers is probably how the zombie apocalypse would be.
Right. Yeah, that's perfect.
Fair. But so you kind of have to play the game multiple times when you're writing to it. So like I probably play any game I've worked on. I've played more than anybody else, because I'm not smart enough to remember the experience. I have to play it and feel it and write to that. And in that example, sometimes I'm playing it as the character and I'm writing a line for what the character thinks, right? Sometimes I'm writing it for, then I'll play through and I'm like, what is the player thinking when they see this? What is they're experiencing? And then sometimes, like Francis's I hate stuff, is I am the character and the player, and I know what's being talked about, and I'm going to use that, right? So the Francis I hate stuff actually came from this sign for lawyers that was on the building. I kept asking the artists to change, and they never would. And I'm like, I hate this sign. So I hate lawyers. And then I did that a couple times, and it's like that. Me and Eric and Jay are writing, and someone makes a good gag. Everyone else just runs with it, right? And then you're inserting that in a bunch of other places. And that's kind of how we did that. But it was making sure that you played it those three different ways of the character, the player, and then the player and the character knowing there's a player kind of interaction thing, right? Yeah. And so sometimes, and all of that is, and this was Eric's genius idea though, is none of the lines are clever because those would stick out with you. Instead, they work really well that sometimes they just combine perfectly together. And you have this moment of like Zoe yelling, oh my God, they got God. Like just at this perfect moment, right? And it's kind of like, if they're too clever, they're going to stick out. They're going to become annoying. They're going to become this little thing, right? I've been talking with somebody else who's made a big co-op game recently that's been struggling a little bit. And they have a bunch of tasks you have to do. And I think the other important thing is not to have tasks, because repetitive tasks get repetitive. We're just moving through a space doesn't get repetitive. I don't know what it's about our brain, but we don't mind that as much. And so then if you talk about that and you mix it up, and then Mike Booth just had the rule, and I think he's right on this, is you have to have at least 3 of everything so that you don't notice it repeating. And so that's what we did. And it was just a ton of dialogue, right? And that was a lot of just sitting in a hotel room often, just like, man, we were bad that first Left 4 Dead. Night before recording session, I was sending off the files like at 3 a.m. to the actors. I felt bad. Eventually we had to become professionals. But back then, that's how we did it. Like, it was just like right before recording session and just dropping it.
It was a top tier player story for me. For my history of playing games was Left 4 Dead. Playing it for the first time, I believe, with Tim and another friend who's been on the cast, Reed, and maybe another person who was 4-player, obviously. And I didn't know about any of the special zombies, so I kind of came up. I was ahead of everybody for some reason. Looked down in this long pipe, and Reed says something like, nobody, there's the witch, don't, and I'm like, I'm just going to shoot this one zombie. Because I don't know what he's talking about. Oh boy, was that, that was,
memorable.
A bit of a moment. But I remember it. I don't know how many rounds of other multiplayer games I've played, but that moment has stuck with me for, 20 years or so.
Yeah. There's a moment when, similar to the Orange Box, we just needed to play test it, and we just needed people to play. So we just set up couches and chairs everywhere, and you can invite your friends in. We would buy pizza and beer. And I always remember one of the animators sent out a company-wide email. Hey, we're out of beer. Does anybody need anything while I'm going out to the store? And I'm like, oh my God, I've lost control of the team. Like, I am going to get in trouble for this. Like, they're sending out emails like that. And so then we put kegs in the fridge, and that solved that problem. And then someone complained there wasn't room for like food in the fridge. I'm like, yeah, that's a different problem. I don't care.
You need another fridge.
But that was it, is people just hung out with their friends and drank beer and played Left 4 Dead. And like, you watch this happening in the office and you're like, okay, this is going to work.
Yeah.
This is going to pull together.
Those are magical moments. Yeah, for sure. And it's the ye old people are playing it longer than they need to because it's fun. Right. And once you're there, you know at that point that something's going on there. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And I think, we talked about it because we played Half-Life on the podcast and we had some folks from Valve on that. We played Portal, as you know, and stuff. And I guess that's it for Valve. But we've talked about from time to time, I don't know how best to describe it, but sort of I'll just summarize it as the live game transition that Valve went through. And the thing that I always appreciated about Left 4 Dead, and I never got into Dota, and I know Dota 2 has some of this as well when it comes to the writing. Maybe you could speak to some of that. But the thing that I appreciated about Left 4 Dead being such a Valve and Half-Life fan and Portal fan is obviously we all miss those games, the single player kind of more narrative-driven story games. But the spirit of some of that stuff is still there. The storytelling is still there in a Left 4 Dead type game. So I just, applaud Valve for identifying you and others identifying that there still needs to be the spirit of that, even though it's a live game, which is not a priority for a lot of live games, to be honest, which always bumps me out. So Portal, now Eric was kind of telling the story that it sounds like between you and Jay and him and maybe Mark, I don't know who, but there was always like, you're helping each other out all the time because it is so fast and loose. And at one point it sounded like, I think he said that he asked you to come help him with Portal 2. And is that where we led to Portal 2 co-op or?
Yes. So at that point, then we did Left 4 Dead 2, right?
Yeah.
And then we did a Left 4 Dead 2 DLC and we had some stuff going on. And I'm like, all right, I'm not working on Portal 2. It's gonna be the first game I'm not gonna work on. I am totally not working on this. I'm gonna not crunch because I was just gone all the time. I mean, not just the crunching on the game, but also I was traveling to do the press and everything, and like just a stupid amount of time. And so I was just like, Portal 2, not working on it. And I would sit in their meeting room with them when they're talking story and stuff and, kick around and stuff. But Left 4 Dead 2 had stuff going on. I was doing there's a bunch of crossovers. Like Left 4 Dead 2 did crossovers with everybody.
Right.
I was allowed to. And I'm just like, of course, I love this games, right? But so it just got to this point of like, okay, how's that going? And I'm sitting in there every week. They're crunching, they're sweating it, but they're smart, they're funny. But they had made a really complicated Portal 2 co-op story. It was funny, but there's a whole about this comic strip and this whole is complicated. And then at one point, I remember exactly because I find out my cat has cancer. And if you know me, I love my cats. This was our first cat. And come in the next day and they're like, hey, can you work on can you do the Portal 2 co-op? And I'm like, no, I am not in the mood to be funny. And Jay threw himself under the bus and we just hung out in the room for like 2 hours and Jay just cracked me up. Like both those guys are super funny. So it's like always funny to be around them. And it was just like, okay. And we made a deal where I would never talk about their stuff and they would never talk about my stuff. If they had supportive stuff to say, sure. But like, we'll give each other, some breath around that. And so then I'm like, okay, I'll do this. And then that was it. We would occasionally, because, we're recording Ellen. It's all the same voice. So we're going back to her together. And I'm like, hey, I've got some of this and this. And we're looking at each other's stuff. And, like there's some of that going on, but there's no big, their stuff was funnier. It was just a better setup. Mine was just pretty quickly trying to pull together.
Get it done.
What those kind of different runs were, right? Like, how do I think about these? And it really quickly becomes like, okay, each of these tracks to get the CD is think of it like as a testing track. So this is the physical test. This is the mental test. This is the psychological test.
Right.
Okay. And then I'll just theme everything inside of that. And then I have enough jokes from Portal World that I can pull on and stuff and go with, and then kind of just do that.
Right. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. Yeah. It's, we talked about it. We played Portal 2 kind of as a bonus episode to Portal 1. And then we also played co-op together, streamed it on Twitch. So it's pretty fresh, even though my memory's terrible, but it wasn't that long ago. But it did feel like kind of a capsule story, if you will, from everything. But also Portal 2, just the campaign is super big. And to your point, super long and super complex. And there's a lot going on. And I appreciate the scale of it. But at the same time, when we played Portal 1 for the podcast and we talked to Eric about that, Portal 1 is such a gem, partially because of its size, I think.
Yes.
Because it's such a pure little package. And I love Portal 2 as well. And it won awards, all that stuff. And I still appreciate it. But for me, it lost a little bit of something because it was so elaborate. And I did appreciate that about co-op. Sounds like it was, mother necessity of invention in that case, but I did appreciate that it was more of an encapsulated experience for co-op. It's just the two of us doing our thing, and then you save the humans.
Well, also because I would find out like, so we wanted to do a gag where if one of you was talking a lot, I was going to talk to the other one about how the one wouldn't shut up. Except when people were doing dances and stuff, they took that as being noisy as well. So it wasn't just them talking. And so I tried to do that joke and it just fell flat because they're like, well, hang on, I'm dancing around here. I'm interacting. I'm not quiet. And so it became like, okay, I have to stay back and live in this space outside of like a little bit more just serving the play of the two people and not kind of interceding inside of that. Right. Did that probably a little bit more. My whole thing was if I can make the joke that essentially the end is they're going to kill a whole bunch of humans, right? Because that's the payoff. Is they're just going to slaughter humans. And then inside of that, just like we do some jokes of like, I don't know if you notice this, but if you are each wearing headphones, she will say different things to different people.
Right. Yeah. Tracks. Yeah. We were playing bi-coastal. I'm in Maryland. He's in, he's on Bainbridge. So yeah, we were definitely hearing that. And there were definitely times where I was like, this is very, very clever and not something I had really encountered before, in a game in that way, which was
so cool.
So good.
Yeah. I think we had a moment on stream where we're like both side-eyeing of like, did you just hear what I just heard?
I started playing it up because I knew he couldn't hear what I was hearing. I'd say, I can't believe she said that about you, and just at random times because now you can do that too.
No reviews caught that.
Wow.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Wow. We need a better journalistic class. Come on.
Well, but also think about how they probably played it. If you're playing it side by
that's
side,
what I was going to say.
or something else, right?
Yeah,
it's very
especially
specific.
with an advanced copy or something like that. You're gonna have to play it in an office.
And then we had a whole bunch of playtesters come through, and we would record them playing and stuff. But you don't really get that gist of that.
Right. My
favorite thing of that though is I would torment Eric and Jay. So one time I would torment them is we would have a video on the person's face while they're playing. When they're playing single player Portal 2, they'd be like super serious. And then they'd be like, funniest game I've ever played. Oh my God, I couldn't stop laughing. And you're like, what?
We just recorded you.
Yeah. But if they're playing co-op, they think there's a person on the other end. So they're doing all the social cues that you do when you talk to another human. So they're laughing and they're smiling. So I would send them pictures of my playtesters versus their playtesters.
Yeah, your playtesters look like that. I don't know, New York Times article from years ago of this is what the faces of gamers look like, or whatever that was.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, so the social cues. Yeah, that's really fascinating because of the co-op nature. That's why we wanted to play it on stream, and of course, it's even funnier because it's the two of us. And Brett already teases me a lot about lots of things, so it was perfect setup, and the tone of it was perfect, right? That's amazing. That's a great tidbit on playtesting in general, because as most listeners know, there a lot of playtesting processes, right, have you filming the face of the player so we can get feedback as developers on that. But the differences between those two in one game is really fascinating to hear. And the ye old co-op makes everything more fun is fully exemplified there. So
yep.
So we had. Go ahead.
I was going to say, that's also just a fun game to watch people play test because it's a test.
Yeah.
Right. And so like I watched all the original Portal play tests, right? Because partially it was this great learning thing because Robin was in there as well, right? And he would break down and like talk about it and how to think about the player. And it was just like, oh man, this is so good. I should take notes. So yeah, it was like the whole thing was a learning experience on that side. And then seeing it in the co-op and seeing, I don't know if you guys have this, because I didn't get to catch your stream of like where often it's one person gets, I know how to do this. Just shut up and stand there. Let me do my thing. I'll get you set up and do the thing I tell you.
Yeah. I think you can guess at how that goes. And of course, we have listeners on the stream watching who listen to the podcast, so they're chiming in. And I always get the brunt of it, but that's okay. It's fun.
He's way more good natured about taking that ribbing than I am. It's an East Coast West Coast thing. So
there was occasion when I knew what to do, and I got to tell him, and he didn't take it so well.
I wasn't happy. I was like, come on, let me get in there.
But it is so funny. It's such a meta mode for the game because obviously with Portal 2, the campaign's doing its thing. It's about Shell and you have all the sort of story. But because you're just the robots, and to your point, it is a test. Especially if streaming it like we did, you feel like you're being tested, and it's very meta because she's making fun of you the whole time. So you're like, gosh darn it, give us a break. We're trying to figure this out, so it really like all the pieces come together well. We actually had somebody bring up the comic as well. And then they found a video of you on YouTube explaining Ratman. Is that, what's his name? Ratman, the character from the comic?
Yeah, Ratman and his the national song.
The national song, right? Exactly. Yeah. So so people we have it on our Discord if people want to check it out. You can add more commentary if you want, but that was another edition. So did you write the comic, or did you all write the comic? Or
no. I didn't write the comic. No, it was just the woman who did the art on that would later then share an office with me on CSGO. And so she was really basing it on what's his face from Radiohead.
Yeah.
But I'm also a quicker if you need somebody with a beard and messed up hair, you can also just have me stand there for a sec, right? So
she's like looking over her shoulder, and then and now it's your avatar picture, your profile picture.
So one thing, though, bringing it back to Portal and that song, the original song for Portal 1, Eric may forget that there's a meeting that he asked me to join him and Kim in to go to Gabe and this other guy at Valve and say, hey, we need the money to buy this song, right? This is like
he didn't tell this.
He is so wound up. He was so excited about the song and so selling it. And they're just like, okay, yeah, sure. It's like not that much money, right? It's just not. But the whole thing is, we just promised us you won't use it if it's not good. And Eric was just like, no, it's going to be great. It's like, he was just so excited about it. It's always fun when you see somebody so excited about something and wanting to try something and do something, and then seeing it like just so perfectly come together.
Right. Yeah.
He was so like, because clearly he was having other arguments at other places. Yeah. The same person also suggested that there should be dead bodies scattered throughout Portal 1 to show past people. And
past testers.
Crab cracker, you mean? Crab cracker.
We brought that. I called Gabe into the meeting and said, hey, and he's like, this is the stupidest thing ever. Why would anyone suggest that? No one's suggesting that. All right, meeting's over.
Wow. That's a tactic.
Like that was such a different tone, right?
Yeah.
So clearly a different
ruined
tone.
It. Would have ruined it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Those were some fun. Yeah, just the whole story of the song and the crab cracker and all that stuff. And yeah.
Because then the national song was supposed to be a fake ending. Because in Portal 1, everyone thinks it ended, right? And so we're going to let's just sell it. We'll have this really fancy band do a big song and have you think that's the end. And it just didn't work.
Right.
So then we put it somewhere else.
Right. And you got to work with them on that, right?
Yeah. I was the go-between, and that's that year. Gabe sent an email at the end of the year, and he's like, they're giving out bonuses. They're like saying how the bonuses are going. But Chet gets his national song. So if anybody wants Chet's bonus, just let me know and they can have it.
Right. You had to forfeit your bonus for that song.
I got my national song.
I don't know. That might be worth it there. You can say they're pretty cool. So
we signed a great deal with them where it's actually their song. They get to keep it. We also just get to license it forever. Right?
Got it. So, okay. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's fair. Then that's good you thought of that. Because sometimes they can not be treated well in those situations. Yeah.
No, because it's also funny is we did a big contest where we did a YouTube video for that song, and we had people submit. And people submitted all these really complicated animated things and like all these really great things. And some guy just did a sock puppet.
I didn't know this.
I'll send you the link, and it is so good. It is so good. And it's just him walking around like some Irish island or something with a sock puppet, and it is so good. And it ended up like it won. It won internally on the votes. And then I shared it with the band and I'm like, hey, here's like the top 10. And they all like, no, that's the one. That's the one. And some people internally were like, we can't pick the sock puppet. Like these other people spend so much time. They put so much production in this. I'm like, no, the sock puppet. The sock puppet.
There's a lesson in there though, too, I think, that the sock puppet, I mean, I'm sure Crab Cracker wasn't into it. So
no.
Yeah. Any parting thoughts as we're coming up on time here?
Yeah, we're already at an hour.
Be respectful of your time. That flew by.
Yeah,
I'm just noticing.
Well, it's been Mr. Awesome.
I'm dabbling, I think. Yeah, sorry if I
No, not at all.
Not at all. There's no such thing as dabbling.
It was just a fun time, right? Like if people ever want to say like, oh, Valve doesn't ship a lot of games. In 6 years, those are all those games we shipped, right? That's a lot of games.
Yeah,
I think there's a subtext there that's unfair to Valve is just that it's the Half-Life problem to some degree, right? It's like they say, oh, they don't ship games. They're like, what they mean is where are those sorts of games? It's like, no, companies evolve, and Valve has evolved in the correct direction, I'd say.
Between Steam and all the hardware that just got announced. I mean, that's
exactly.
Crazy. There's all that hardware.
I know. I love it. I'm so excited. But I think the other thing about it is that live games do ship all the time once they're live. And so it's frustrating. All of us are developers. We're all frustrated about the same things. And I think that it's unfair what we know what they mean. But Valve shipping all the time really is what's happening. So,
yeah, no, it was fun. It was great working there, right? I mean, it was just like but I had done that. I'd done that enough. Didn't need to go spend a bunch of years doing it again. So try to do new stuff is my thing. So I got to do the VR stuff too, and that was fun.
Yeah. No, I mean, feel free to talk about any of that if you want to. And I know, and then your own company, Stray Bombay, as well.
Well, so that was one of the great things at Valve is again, if you were willing to put in the work and solve the problem.
Yeah.
And so I could tell with Source 2 kind of stalling out, the games weren't happening, and the VR team invited me down, and I just sat in a corner for months. I didn't know the hardware. I just listened to like Michael Abrash and Doug Church and other smarter people give demos and talk about it. And then, got to be a part of that. And that was fun.
Yeah. And a whole new frontier as well. And to your point on the hardware, I think we're all surprised that they're coming out with a new headset as well. So it's like they're still committed, which is great.
Well, so just to that point is the interesting thing that I think some people are starting to pull together is they did the headset. We did it with HTC just because we needed a partner. We didn't know what we were doing, right? We didn't. Mm-hmm. It was hard enough to pull together our software side of it, and then all the games and all the picking the initial GDC track and all of that, right? Mm-hmm. Like that was enough. But now they kind of did their version, which is the cleaned up version, and now this new version is really the kind of the future thing. But with that, they now also have it where you have a Steam machine which you can connect it to, which means all of a sudden it's super simple. Back when it was the Lighthouse and you had to do the PC and it was complicated, right? Mm-hmm. So now they're building this whole ecosystem outside of Windows that has a bunch of parts to it that you could live inside of that ecosystem and not have to leave it.
I'm in.
And that's to me is super interesting and making it, but people talked about that back then. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. You're idiots.
It's never going to happen. Never going to happen.
Well, but it's just like, you don't take anything as a failure. You take it as like, okay, are we going to learn from it? And people will say they learn from failures all the time. And they don't. They just say that. But like Valve did, right? Valve learned every time. Like they launched something like, oh, okay, this doesn't work. This works. Let's build this out. Let's do this again. Let's approach it this way.
Iteration. Right? Yeah.
I really love that the Steam Link as well. I mean, that was a weird iteration, but what a great, I mean, the controller was great too. Odd, unusual, but still worked really well. Like sitting on my couch and playing PC game on my TV was like, oh, actually this is pretty good. Like I like this a lot. And the Steam Link was a great way to do it.
Totally underappreciated piece of hardware. And so it felt so good because it was a nice, heavy, little, tiny. Thing, right?
It was. Yeah, you're right. It was like really dense. Felt really dense, like a little piece of plutonium.
And I think, I mean, again, to be respectful of your time, closing down a little bit. Like to your point on iteration, we talked a lot about it for the software's sake and for the experience of the game's sake. But to your point on the hardware, I think with the announcement of the hardware, there's a lot of buzz about it and kind of almost a lot of surprise about it, because obviously Xbox and PlayStation and are trying to figure out what the hell they're doing, and it's still confusing us all. And then kind of like out of nowhere, Valve comes out with this as a as a coup de grace or whatever, and it's like, oh wow, they masterfully done. But to your point, there was a whole phase of Steam machines in the past, right? To your point on the HTC device, the VR device, there's been multiple controllers, right? And so if you actually look backwards, there is a lineage, there's a legacy here that has brought them to this moment. They just iterated, learned from it.
Hey, and we don't put out a spec to a bunch of partners and say, build this. We actually have to build it ourselves. And
exactly, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's there.
As now as a fan more than anything, like it's just fun to watch this happen and be like, oh man, all right, this is cool. This is cool.
Good for them.
Cool to see this to come together.
Well, thanks so much, Chet. This has been delightful to have you both you and Eric on, and thanks for that as well, because you helped us, connect to Eric too. So we really thank you for being on. Very special conversation. So appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Hope I didn't babble too much. And then otherwise, So
perfect babble.
Here, the end. Game Anacrusis, we launched it 2 years ago. Yeah, it didn't hit. It's fine. Actually, I gave source control access and build server access to our community, and they're updating it now.
I did not know that. Oh, amazing!
Super cool. That's super cool.
They finally released a big community update this past summer, and they've got another update coming.
That's amazing.
That's super cool.
People. So one of the people from our community ended up helping us ship the Anacrusis, and then when we essentially closed down, I got them a job at another studio, and now they're at another studio because that studio closed down. But like they've taken off, and so I think people look at that and go, "Oh, so this is an on ramp. This is a way I can." And I'm like, "Yeah, learn all you want. Like, learn what it's like. Hey, you want to learn what it's like to ship on an Xbox? Hey, go ahead. Right? Like, I don't know."
That's
we'll
awesome.
See how it goes. You can't hurt something that's not selling. So that's not selling, I guess.
Well, supporting the community, and to your point, like learning from those events and then iterating on it and continuing it forward. That's amazing to embrace the community that way.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that we would embrace as well, at our own company. But that's a great example. I didn't know that.
But it sounds like with your community for this is like we just have a community of people that we play games together. We play competitive games together, but with an open mic, and we're all on the same channel. There's no strategizing. There's no, you're just having fun. You're laughing. You're having a good time together and just being supportive of each other. And that's just fun. Like that, to me, that's like the old school kind of way. And we play a lot of old source games and stuff and things that you wouldn't get to play because there's not a community for it anymore. But if 32 of you play it, you can go play Day of Defeat Source. We just played it this past week, right?
That's amazing. Yeah.
And kind of
like a LAN party.
Kind of fun. Yeah.
Like the old LAN parties. Yeah.
Yeah. So once a week we do a LAN party of one of the old games and have fun doing it.
That's amazing.
And will something come out of that later that we ship something new? Maybe. Who knows? I'm not worried about that. It's more just have that, working on some prototypes going on, right?
Yeah. Awesome.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Chet. This was fantastic. Awesome, in fact.
Yes. Well, no, thank you guys. And I won't interrupt you again in keeping it going. We'll just let this die this time.
Okay. Here it goes.
Keep resurrecting it, just as you almost have it over.
Welcome back from the break. I am so glad that you were able to get us Chet. I don't know that we've talked. I don't know that we've talked at all on mic about how you know Chet, or how that came about. But yeah, so that was a great, it's a great interview. And as always, it's like, oh yeah, we could keep going. He clearly could have kept going.
Yeah, it's super easy to talk to and full of stories. I mean, he's, not to be cheesy, but he's one of our best storytellers in our medium, and so he's going to obviously have a lot of good stories to tell about our medium and about what he's contributed to it. So I'm really lucky we got him on. Yeah, not too much inside baseball, but Chet actually was a really big help in getting Twin Sun started, our company. He really helped me.
That's right. I remember.
He helped me get the playbook together for just even the logistics, right? Like legal and incorporation and insurance. And like, he was very great. He was very gracious when it came to helping, people in the Seattle community, game dev community, get going. He's a very giving person. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure we would have figured it out, but we kind of wouldn't be here without Chet in a strange way. Even though he probably doesn't know that, but he did help. He did help give us kind of connections. So that's how I know him.
Cool. That's I did now. Once you started saying that, I did remember. Oh yeah, that's right. I can remember. I remember it being Stray Bombay. He had stuck in my head, not Chet Faliszek.
Right. Not why. Yeah. He had started Stray Bombay maybe a year or something before we had started. So he had gone through the whole process and everything. We shared lawyers, those sorts of things.
That's how it happens. Like, not only just in the best of cases when you're kind of in indie development, people are helping each other, right? It's like, oh, I just went through this. I will save you so much trouble. Just let's get on a call and talk for an hour, like, and take, bring a notepad, or whatever.
None of us had. I mean, you've done it. You did it in sort of a way, but
I've never been responsible for.
But a lot of us haven't done it, So it's you need. It's definitely a black box. And I will say the Seattle game dev community up here is very welcoming and seems to be pretty tight knit. I'm antisocial, so I don't really talk to them that much. But
look, you live on a literal island, so
sure, yeah, that's intentional, yeah,
yeah. And I'm hoping, I've just crossing my fingers with climate change. Chesapeake Bay maybe stretches up, cuts me off from the rest of them. It could happen. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you want to be on an island.
Yeah, I'm like the villain in one of those Bond movies. Was it View to a Kill? Maybe he was gonna separate the whole California coast.
Was that his plan? Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on back to the conversation. I just love the the upside of working at a place like Valve, where you do have opportunity if you're willing to jump in, which I think is actually common to our own early experience, right? That we were able to do that because we were willing to do that, and we've talked sometimes about field promotions and things like that. But like the idea that there was no QA department. And they were like, oh yeah, we've got to go through cert. And they're like, well, we probably should be testing all of the things that would go through cert. Like, they give you the 50-page document of the things that you got to do. Wild. That's wild to me.
Yeah. And it's a kind of an interesting partnership story to our conversation at the beginning of that series, because we were talking about the Orange Box and how it was a shift in strategy for Valve because they were so PC focused and they were planning on doing a console game or a console release in a bigger way. But when Chet said that, it's like, oh yeah, Valve really wasn't set up for console releases like that. Box product, like you burn the discs and you don't touch them again kind of situation.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they didn't have the infrastructure, in retrospect, I'm like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. Because the Orange Box is such a weird thing. And they never did another one of those since.
Right. Well, Portal 2 was on, but they've never done the box. But other games have been on.
But I mean, like, strategically, Portal 2. But
and the Left 4 Deads were as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so that was a kickoff there. But I was happy, even though we got him here on the podcast under the guise of Portal 2 co-op.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we actually got to talk about the other games that he worked on there, because not that Portal 2 co-op wasn't important, it was, but Left 4 Dead, Team Fortress 2.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about his, I know he worked on Dota stuff. I know he worked on Counter-Strike stuff. So, I'm really glad we got to talk about those other games, because they're potentially even more important. And I don't know if we would ever maybe play them for the podcast at this point, but maybe. So that was good.
Yeah. Tricky. Multiplayer is always tricky that way. But yeah, great conversation, and we really thank Chet for coming. And actually did some homework, listened to the podcast a bit, and so was inquiring about our community. That might have been after, I can't remember now, but
yeah. So maybe we'll see him on the Discord.
we'll see. Anything else you want to touch on there, or can we roll on out?
Let's roll on out.
Let's roll on out. So
we can put Portal to bed, I think, now. Oh,
not true.
Oh, no.
Maybe not put Portal.
More surprises.
Might have more.
Maybe more surprises.
Might have more people stepping through portals in the future. In the meantime, we'd love to see your reviews up on whatever platform you use. A thumbs up, 5-star, or some words. If I see them, great. We'll read them on the cast. If I don't read it on the cast, I probably didn't see it. So just go ahead and send it in to our email at devgameclub@gmail.com. Or we also love to get your questions. We're on the web at devgameclub.com, and my co-host here, Twitch, is at twitch.tv/
Tim Longo Jr. with the JR at the end.
Are we twitching tonight, the night that this releases? Tomorrow night.
I plan to. There is a question on what, though, because I still need to do my Far Cry 2 investigation tomorrow. So it depends on what I find on that. But yeah, we can do Splunky if you want to.
Okay. It's
up to you.
If I'm able to be up that late, we will see. So we might be doing that, and who knows what else.
Get a turkey.
I am not in a position. I could be in a position to start a turkey.
Okay.
And of course, we have a fan-run Discord. There's a link for that in our show notes. Our intro and outro music was written and performed by Kirk Hamilton, commissioned by friend of the cast Aaron Evers, and our logo, that Discord, our merch store, all by Mark Garcia. Have fun learning the names of all the remaining humans this week, and good night.
Good night.